Everybody wants to know, how did Ted Bundy, a sweet boy who grew up in a good house, became one of the worst mass murderers of all time? What triggered Son and Sam to terrorize New York for an entire year? What made John Wayne Gacy bury people under his house and have relations with teenage boys? Well, everybody wants to know, what makes a serial killer? How did it get from a sweet child playing baseball and basketball and doing well in school to terrorizing an entire city, a whole nation? So today we'll talk about the evolution of a serial killer and how they got from point A to point B to point C. Right? And I want to start out with, there is no true predictor of a serial killer. Okay, I've said this in my past videos. There's no checklist, right? There's no checklist. You say, okay, he does this, he does this, does this. He's gonna be a serial killer. But I'm talking about the common traits or common occurrences between serial killers to understand them better. The first, starting in childhood, is often that they're an illegitimate child, right? Two big instances I've talked about is Ted Bundy, right? The lady killer. He was an illegitimate child. His mother was not married when he had her, she had him, and her parents raised him as though he were their own and she were his sister, right? This happened for a few years, right? And then basically that the pregnancy, she stayed home from school. Nobody really saw her. And then eventually, I think when Ted was about 4 years old, she married a man named Johnny Bundy, right? And then she became his official mother, as she should be. And that kind of hurt him. That really made him suffer from a false identity, right? Not having that true mother bond that a child is supposed to have. The same thing happened with David Berkowitz, just a little bit different. He was given up for adoption at 3 days old. Okay? And there's a theory that when a baby is stripped from his birth mother, even at such a young age, people think it's safe, right? It's really not. And what I mean is they're not safe from that emotional turmoil. A baby has been inside that woman for 9 months. It knows, it has that biological connection to her. So when you're stripped from that and you're not having that proper connection, that nurturing relationship, it really screws the child. They don't have that proper, stable household, right? And they can then kind of act out. The next thing that is common among serial killers, but does not mean you will be a serial killer, right? This is also common among normal, non-martyring people, is that you're antisocial, right? Antisocial does not mean you're introverted. It does not mean that you're afraid of people, anything like that. It means that you manipulate people for your own gain, right? The actual disorder is called antisocial personality disorder. You will repeatedly do small acts that will get you caught, right? Stealing, murder, vandalism, whatever. It can be small or big. You will also con people and emotionally con people to where you'll use them for your gain, and then you'll manipulate them and say, "Oh, you did this, you did that. Oh, no, I was just joking. I was just kidding," right? They manipulate your whole world. Okay, they feel no empathy, and you'll see this kind of develop in childhood. They will be bullies. They will isolate from people at times. They will not have any close friends, right? It's very difficult for these people to have true relationships, to have friends, to really have a really relationship, right? David Berkowitz didn't have any romantic relationships throughout all of high school, even to adulthood. He had fantasies of being with women, what he would do to them, but he never actually was with them, right? Ted Bundy also never had a girlfriend throughout high school. He's a very attractive man. He was sociable, right? But he was never at the parties. He was never out drinking. He just didn't really have desire to be around people, right? And you can see this is a very common trait among serial killers. Again, that doesn't mean you're going to become a killer if you're antisocial. Okay, you may just be an introvert. You may not even be antisocial, right? But we also see in serial killers, they start to do things as a child that are not normal, such as setting fires, okay, harming animals, right? Ted Bundy, he cut animals open. He would, torture them. Jeffrey Dahmer is the best example of this. He would go out in the woods behind his house and, basically he would kill animals and fill their insides and their heart and lungs and muscles. And this was kind of like his gross fascination with death, okay? David Berkowitz's son Sam started setting fires at the age of 4 years old. And it's supposed that he set over 2,000. Some say it was 1,400, some things it's 2,000. But the safe number is about 1,400 or so fires he, for sure, set through his journal that he kept, right? So there are a lot of things that go into what we call serial killer soup. Okay, there are many things besides what I've talked about that add to this. Okay, but not one of these or even all these. If you do all these, that doesn't mean you're going to become Ted Bundy or Gacy or BTK, right? And that's the difficult part. Like I said, there's no checklist of if you're antisocial, if you set fires, if you bully, if you steal, right? Like you're gonna become a serial killer. No. You may have a small record, you may get in trouble with the law a few times, but that doesn't mean you're a violent or evil person. So that is it for today, guys. That is the evolution of a serial killer. A small tidbit introduction to it. Make sure you're subscribe because I'm talking a lot more about the psychology behind killers. Talking about Ted Bundy's life with Liz Kendall, his lover, how he used her. Talking about Son of Sam terrorizing New York and taking 6 lives and terrorizing 11 others, wounding them. Right? Talk about childhood adolescence and how it led to being a huge factor as becoming a serial killer. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're liking this video and sharing it. And of course, stay true to yourself and stay true to your crime.